Have you ever wondered how a line on a map can change the destiny of millions? How a signature on a piece of paper can redraw the future of an entire nation? Today, we journey back to the late 19th century, to the heart of West Africa, to uncover the story of how Côte d'Ivoire, the Ivory Coast, became a French colony. This isn't just a history lesson, it's a story of ambition, exploration, and the clash of worlds that still echoes today. Before we dive in, let's set the stage. The late 1800s was the era of the scramble for Africa. European powers were in a frantic race to claim territories across the continent, driven by a thirst for resources, strategic advantage, and national prestige. In this high-stakes game, France had its eyes firmly set on the lush, resource-rich lands of West Africa. But how did they turn a coastal foothold into a full-fledged colony? The answer lies with one man, Louis-Gustave Binger. Binger was more than just an administrator, he was an intrepid explorer. Born in Strasbourg in 1856, he had a relentless drive for adventure. Between 1887 and 1889, he undertook an epic journey, trekking an incredible 4,000 kilometers from the upper Niger River down to the Gulf of Guinea. This wasn't just a sightseeing trip. Along the way, Binger was a diplomat, a cartographer, and a strategist all in one. He met with numerous local chiefs and leaders, persuading them to sign protectorate treaties with France. But what exactly were these treaties? On the surface, they seemed like a fair deal. France promised protection to these local kingdoms, shielding them from rival ethnic groups and, more importantly, from other European powers like Britain, who were also vying for influence in the region. In return for this so-called protection, the local leaders granted France exclusive trading rights and, crucially, access to land. These agreements were built upon earlier, smaller French outposts that had been established along the coast since the 1840s. It was a slow, methodical expansion, one treaty at a time. The land itself was a mosaic of diverse peoples and cultures. Groups like the Akan people had migrated into the region for centuries, establishing powerful kingdoms. Along the coast, various communities had long-standing trade relationships. But the arrival of the French began to fundamentally alter this landscape. The French weren't just interested in coastal trade anymore. Their gaze was shifting inland, towards the promise of gold, timber, and the vast agricultural potential of the interior. The treaties signed by Binger were the keys that unlocked this inland expansion. Then came the turning point. On March 10, 1893, the French government officially consolidated its territories and declared the creation of the colony of Côte d'Ivoire. Louis-Gustave Binger, the explorer who had mapped the path, was appointed as its first governor. This decree wasn't just a formality, it was a declaration of intent. It signaled that France was no longer content with being a trading partner or a protector. It was now the ruler. The establishment of the colony marked the beginning of a new, more aggressive phase. The French administration began to impose its authority more directly. They introduced taxes, forced labor systems, and started building infrastructure like roads and railways, not for the benefit of the local population, but to more efficiently extract the colony's wealth and transport it back to France. The borders of this new colony were drawn not according to existing ethnic or political lines, but according to French strategic interests, lumping together diverse and sometimes rival groups under a single administration. Of course, this takeover didn't happen without a fight. While some leaders had signed treaties, many others resisted French domination fiercely. For over 2 decades, from the official founding of the colony until around 1915, the French military was engaged in what they called pacification campaigns. This was a brutal and prolonged period of conflict, as French forces fought to subdue resistance from various communities across the territory who refused to give up their sovereignty. It was a slow, bloody process of extending control, village by village, region by region. This brings us to a central, complex question. Was France's role a shield or a seizure? Supporters of the colonial project at the time argued that France brought stability, modern infrastructure, and an end to local conflicts. They would point to the treaties and claim their presence was requested, that they were protecting weaker groups and bringing the benefits of civilization. However, the critics, then and now, paint a very different picture. They see the treaties as deceptive tools of conquest, signed under duress, or with a lack of understanding of their true implications. They argue that the promise of protection was a smokescreen for economic exploitation and political subjugation. The French didn't end conflict. They just replaced it with their own state-sanctioned control, violently suppressing anyone who stood in their way. The shield was, in fact, the cage of colonial rule. The legacy of this period is incredibly complex and is still debated in Côte d'Ivoire and France today. The lines drawn on the map by Binger and his successors became the borders of a modern nation. The French language, legal systems, and administrative structures they imposed continue to shape the country, but this foundation was built on conquest and inequality. The economic systems designed to benefit the colonizer left deep-seated challenges that post-independence Côte d'Ivoire has had to grapple with. So, when we look back at March 10, 1893, we see more than just a historical date. We see the culmination of a strategy that turned exploration into empire and protectorates into possessions. The story of Louis-Gustave Binger and the founding of Côte d'Ivoire is a powerful reminder of how personal ambition and national greed can reshape the world, for better or for worse. It forces us to ask difficult questions about power, consent, and the true price of progress. What do you think? Was the French colonization of Côte d'Ivoire a necessary evil that brought modernity, or was it a calculated act of seizure and exploitation? Was Binger a visionary pioneer or an agent of empire? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'm really interested to hear your perspective on this. Shield or seizure? You decide. Thank you so much for joining me on this historical deep dive. If you found this video interesting, and want to learn more about the hidden stories that shaped our world, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to ring the notification bell so you won't miss our next exploration into the past. See you in the next video.